Hello and welcome to our webinar. My name is Daniel Graham and I'm a product manager here at Autodesk. Today I'm very excited to be bringing to you some top tips and tricks around Autodesk Inventor. We really hope that by presenting these will allow you to become more productive as you go through your design process. So with that, let's go ahead and get started and jump into this. So the goal for the agenda of this webinar is to present Inventor tips and tricks in a wide variety of areas within the software. Everything from general tips, which will cover setting up the UI and application options, moving forward to help you be more productive in parts, assemblies, and drawings. Not only are we trying to be a little bit broad in the types of tips and tricks that we present in the area of the software, we really hope that this is applicable for a wide number of users. I really hope that the new users are going to be able to pick up lots of tips and tricks as you go through this to make them get up to speed more quickly. But hopefully the advanced or intermediate users will also see a few new things as we go through the session. So with that, let's get started in some of the general tips. So the first tip I want to share with you is one that allows you to customize your UI for efficiency. As you can see, I have an Inventor assembly open. If I look at this, you can see that my Assemble tab is the one that is on by default. Oftentimes when I'm working in the context of an assembly, I have to go to other tabs to gain access to different tools. So one of those would be, for example, I would go to the Inspect tab to invoke the Distance tool. Well, this is one that I use very often, and I don't use a keyboard shortcut for this. So what I can do is I can simply right-click, say Show Panels, and turn on the Measure tool. So now right from within the context of an assembly, with the Assemble tab activated, I can gain access to the Distance command right without having to switch between panels. The next tip is a small time saver, but one that I use often, and it's around the tool that we have for Select Other. As I hover above geometry and I hold this, you can see that we can of course navigate through, and I could pick these other things by going down through this list, but a quick way that I interact with this is I actually just use my wheel of my mouse. So now if I just scroll up and down on the wheel of my mouse, it's a very quick way to graphically select what is of interest to you. So Inventor actually renders materials, colors, and textures really impressively. So one thing that I like to do though is tweak a few of the settings to make sure that I have my model looking as good as it can right from within Inventor. So one thing that I want to talk about is I go to the View tool, and rather than orthographic, I turn on perspective. And you can see immediately that's going to change the look of the design here, and it's going to be much more realistic. I think that's very common, and I think most people know that. The other thing that I want to talk about that I think a lot of people don't know is that you can control the angle of that perspective very easily as well with a keyboard shortcut. So if I hold down Control and Shift on my keyboard and then I scroll my middle wheel of my mouse, I can control the angle of that perspective. So let's do that. Control, Shift, and then I'm just going to zoom in and out. And you can see that I'm controlling the angle of that perspective, and you can get a really nice effect with this. The other trick that I want to talk about is precise zoom control. So oftentimes I just use the middle wheel of my mouse and I scroll it forward and backwards to zoom in and out of my design. If I want to make this and I want to zoom in just a little bit, the tool that I like to use is F3, and you can see that right now it changes and I see this little arrow. So now if I just drag up or down, I can precisely control the zoom for this, getting it just into the spot that I want to be able to take a screen capture maybe of this design. So I've just shown you how you can change your perspective view option. The other thing that I like to flip between is the visual styles that we have access to. So we can use shaded or shaded with edges. I like to default to shaded with edges though. And I want to show you how you can actually make that the default and not have to always choose which one you're flipping back and forth between. So if I go to Tools and I go to Application Options, I can go to my Display tab. And if I use my settings here, I can pick my initial display appearance to be shaded with edges. So I'm going to select OK on this, and then I'm going to ensure that I have Use Application Setting for this. So what this means is for any part or any assembly, it's going to default to the settings that I have here. So in this scenario, shaded with edges, and I'm always going to know that I have that consistent behavior for that look that I like to see. So now I've set up the visual styles that I like with inside of Inventor. The other tool that I want to show you how you can gain access to is one that we offer through our Exchange App Store. So if you go to Tools, you can go to Exchange App Manager, and you can see that I have Inventor Screenshot loaded. I'm going to show you how you can get this. So if you follow the link that says Launch the Autodesk Exchange App website, that's a shortcut. And if you search in this link for Screenshot for Inventor, you can select your operating system and your language, and you can see that this is a free download. Once you've installed that, it will actually show up within your application for Inventor. So I'm going to show you how I use this. So I just go to the Screenshot tool here, I select it, and you have some input options. Do you want to create a capture of the whole application, or just within the document window, or a specific window where you just box select for this? You can also change and you can have your background be normal. I like the colors that I have here, or you can set it just to be a white background. And what's your output location? I like mine going just to my clipboard. So now if I just hit save screenshot, it's very easy for me to go into, for this scenario, Microsoft Word, and I can hit paste, and now I've got this image that I can share. This also works great with sending for emails as well. So many users of Inventor have worked with other CAD tools in the past. One specifically may be AutoCAD. And the zoom direction for the wheel inside of AutoCAD differs from that of Inventor. So in Inventor, if you scroll the wheel away from you, the model goes away from you. If you scroll it towards you, your model comes towards you. If that's backwards from what you're used to and you want to change the behavior inside of Inventor, you can do so. So if you go to Tools and you go to Application Options, under Display, Zoom Behavior, you can select Reverse Direction. You can also do the same inside of AutoCAD if you're used to working in the zoom direction of Inventor and wish to change it inside of your AutoCAD environment so that the two are consistent. So the next tip that I want to talk about allows you to look at a design from different vantage points. So if you take this seat, for example, if I want to look at this from the front as well as from the side, I can simply do so by going to the View tool and selecting New, which selects a new one here, and then I'm just going to tile them so I can see the new as well as the old instance of this. So now if I want to select the back view for this one and the left view for this one, I can do so. The thing that I like doing though is if I want to interact with this, I can do so really easily. So maybe I want to look at that hinge design from the front as well as from the side. And if I want to start editing, I can even do that here very easily as well. So I'm going to double click until I get down to this individual part that I want to work on. And if, for example, I wanted to edit this feature, I could do so very easily. And I could note the impact of this from multiple different vantage points very easily and in a nice tiled left and right scenario. The next trick is one that I use all the time, and I often don't see people taking advantage of this tool inside of Inventor, so I'm going to show you this. So if I wanted to go, for example, and edit this individual part that's at the bottom of the rail of the seat, I would start double clicking, and then I could see that I've activated the bottom half, so there we have a subassembly here. I'm double clicking again, and I get down one level deeper into the design, and I go one more, and now I can see that I'm actually able to edit this specific part that I want to work on. So let me show you a shortcut. So I return all the way to the top for this, and now I'm working again with a top level seat assembly. If I hit shift and I right click, I can go directly to part priority, and now I can double click the individual part that I want to work on, and without those multiple steps, I'm able to work on that. I can also do that to identify where it is in the feature tree, or maybe open it in its own window. All of these things are much easier than navigating down till you get to the part within the subassembly of the tree. So I'm going to return back to the top. If I want to switch it back, again, I just shift, right click, and maybe I want to go back to the default of component properties now. So the next tip is one that I use often. It's very easy, but I think that it does lead to productivity gains when using Inventor. So if I'm looking at this design, I can see that a sketch was actually left on, so the visibility is on in the part file. If I open up the part file, I can see that that indeed is the case, and I can see a sketch is actually turned on here in the design. So if I right click on this, I can go down to visibility and I can turn this off. The keyboard shortcut that I want to share with you today is, if you note that the V is actually underlined in the shortcut here. So what I can do, and it makes it very fast and easy to work with this, is I just simply right click and hit the V key on my keyboard and it turns it off. So it's much faster, I think. For me, I like to use keyboard shortcuts to turn things like that off. In combination with the selection priority that I talked about in the last tip, so if I want to shift right click and ensure that I have part priority, I can do this in many operations. So if, for example, I have this part here and I want to right click, I can just hit V, and it's an easy way to get to the visibility of that very easily as well. So I use this oftentimes to turn off and on sketches, or to turn off and on the visibility of planes, or maybe surfaces that I've just used for construction. It's a really easy way to turn things like that off and on in your design. The next thing that I want to show you how to do is copy and paste parts or assemblies into your design very easily. So there's a number of ways that you can do those, and I'll go through that. So if I wanted to have multiple instances of this assembly placed in the design, I could pick it and hit Control C to copy, and then hit Control V to paste, and that's a very easy way to do this. I can also find where it is in the tree, and if I just hold down Control, I drag it out of the tree, and I've created another instance of this as well. So I think that those are two very easy ways to create copies of additional parts or assemblies that you want to utilize inside of your design in Inventor. So in recent releases of Inventor, we've given lots of control for the ability to apply materials as well as appearances. One thing that I do very often is I apply appearance overrides in the context of an assembly. So if, for example, I find this component here, and I just go to the drop down to say maybe, for example, this needs to have more of a black appearance, just to pick one for an example, I can apply that override just within the context of the assembly. Now I can do this with many of the different parts and sub-assemblies that I have in my design, but if I want to remove all of the overrides, we make that very easy now. So you can go into the view, the default view, right click and hit Remove Appearance Overrides, and that would do that assembly wide all in one step. So the next trick that I'm going to show you is how you can split a design without having to create a construction surface that I see people make typically. So pick a face, start a sketch, and I'm going to view normal to that. I'm just going to start the line tool, and I'm going to draw a line that's just going to be horizontal in orientation. I will also dimension it off of the bottom and say that it's going to be 50 mil up. So now I've got my design and I'm done with my sketch, and that's really all that I need to move forward with this. So I can use the split tool and I can go and pick one of my options. So I'm going to say split the face. What is the tool that I'm going to use? It's going to be the line that I just created. And now what faces do I want to split? So maybe I just want the front face and the back face here, and hit OK, and you can see that I've created those two split faces without actually having to create a whole surface that goes through that design for that split operation. So this next tip allows you to create an align dimension with just 2 clicks. And I'm going to show you how you can do this. So I'm going to pick on this face and I'm going to go into the sketch, and you can see that it's underdefined. What I want to do is I'm just going to start the dimension tool, and I want to dimension this line, but you can see that I can make it a horizontal or vertical, but it's not as easy to make it an aligned dimension. So then I would have to right click, and then I would have to pick aligned, and then I would go through and I would be able to place this. I'm going to show you a better trick for how you can do this. So I'm just going to start the dimension command, click the line once, click it again, and you can see that it's going to come and be aligned to this directly without that extra click. So this tip is going to show you how to do 2 things. One is to turn on a fillet command that you may not know that you have access to, and the other is show some applicability of how it can be a productivity tool for us. So we of course have the common fillet command, which everyone is aware of. The other one that I want to show you is you can right click, say show panel, and turn on your plastic part tools. And within the plastic parts, we have a rule based fillet. So if, for example, I have a feature here, and I want to say I want to apply a 1mm fillet everywhere where that feature hits the rest of the part, I can do so very easily. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I've selected this, it's going to be the feature. I'm selecting the feature. I'm selecting the size, and you can see that it's applied that without picking particular edges. The reason that I like this is it's very robust in terms of how this is actually going to rebuild. So the definition of this is to apply a fillet everywhere where it contacts the part. So if, for example, I want to make a change to this, and I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to say that this design is going to be wider, and then I rebuild this, notice it's very robust in terms of now my fillet still maintains that rule that I've applied that applies a fillet everywhere where that feature hits the boundary of the part. So the next tip I want to show you is how you can utilize slice graphics, but also some visual styles that work well alongside of those. So if, for example, I'm going to start a sketch on this face and I'm going to view it normally, I want to build some geometry kind of under this cover that I see in this location. So I'm going to put a slot here and I'm going to apply the slot. You can see that it's hidden now because it's underneath this top face. And so slice graphics that I'm going to turn on down here is a great tool to be able to do this. The only problem is if I want to reference the holes that are in that top face, it's a little difficult to see. So what I do typically is I turn this on and I go to my view tool and I select the visual style of shaded with hidden edges. And it's really nice because now I can see kind of the benefit of slice graphics to see through the design, but also have access if I want to create a relationship to this. So maybe I want to take advantage of projecting this geometry and maybe applying a dimension for a spacing between that, and I can do so very easily. So it's a nice mix of being able to utilize slice graphics, but also change that visual style when you want to see some geometry that would be removed by the slice graphic operation. So I'm working inside of Inventor, and I've been working here for a little while, and I have lots of different files open. So I, of course, have my top level assembly that I've been working out of. I have a sheet metal design that I've been working on, a couple of sub-assemblies, and a cast part. It's now time to start making a detailed drawing of some of these designs. As I start and I go through my base view, you can see that I am seeing the cast part here, and that's going to be the selection that it's going to use by default. I can hit the drop down and I can see the other files that are active in my window, but because I use a part number scheme here that's not descriptive, I don't necessarily know which one of those correspond to the part that I want to create a detailed drawing of, which is the sheet metal component. So a little trick that I'll show you, if you hover above these, it shows the little preview window of this. So I can see that this is my sheet metal part, and if I just pick this and now I go to my drawing, if I go to my base view now, it's going to know that that is the component that you want to start making the base view of. I'm just going to pick my scale, and you can see now that it's going to be very easy to start creating the detailed drawing off of the appropriate part that I had in mind. So the last tip that we're going to talk about today is also around drawings. So if you're ready to make a section view, you can do so by just picking the section view, selecting the view that you want to section, drawing your line for where you want that section view to be, and then just hit continue. Now one thing that you can see is that we can just drag this left or right, which controls the direction of that section. But if you hit the control key, it actually can break the alignment. So maybe if you want it down here in the bottom right hand side, you can hit that, and now you can see that very easily, rather than creating the section view, then breaking the alignment, and then moving its location, just by hitting the control key, you can drag it off of alignment from the section from which it was created. So in the past 20 minutes, we've covered lots of tips and tricks, and I hope you found the session valuable. So in summary, let's go through some of the things that we showed you how to do. We started off showing you how to customize the UI and add the measure tool to the assemble ribbon. This is a great tool to allow you to access that measurement tool much easier as you're working with parts and assemblies. The other thing that we showed you is an enhancement of how you can utilize the Select Other tool. So rather than having to use the drop-down, you can just scroll with your mouse wheel to access that Select Other process. The other thing that we showed you how to do is use the perspective mode more efficiently. So if you just hit Control and Shift and use your mouse wheel, you can change the angle of the perspective very easy, and F3 is a great function to allow you to precisely control your zoom options. If you do want to set up your application options, there's many ways to do so. If you want to set up the defaults, we showed you how to control and have an application option drive if you always want to use shaded versus shaded with edges or other view display options. The other thing that we showed you is how you can access the Exchange store to access great tools like the screenshot tool to be able to capture imagery directly out of Inventor and place it into Microsoft Word or Outlook or anywhere else where you want to share your designs. The other thing is if you've come from another CAD tool or maybe from AutoCAD or you're just not used to the direction of zoom within Inventor, we showed you how you can very easily change the zoom direction within an application option also. Another thing that we showed you is how to efficiently use multiple windows for a single assembly or a part. So you can create that new view, tile the views left and right, and look at the two views in two different orientations while you're working on the design to really look at it from those multiple perspectives simultaneously. The other thing that we showed is the selection priority. So maybe if you want to shift, right click, you can select it to be a part priority. So now you can individually select a part, whether it's within a sub-assembly or buried down in the tree of a very large complex assembly, and open that directly or start editing that directly without having to navigate through the assembly structure. There's many ways that we can take advantage of copying and pasting parts inside of Inventor. We showed you how to just Control C and Control V for copy paste, or hold down Control and then drag the part directly out of the tree for reuse inside of the context of an assembly. There's some great tools that you can apply appearance overrides in an assembly, and those are really helpful. But we also showed you how you can go to the view, right click, and say remove those overrides very easily should you want to do so assembly-wide in one operation. Oftentimes when people want to split faces of their designs, I see that they create some construction geometry. Oftentimes this geometry is a plane or a complete surface, but we've shown you in this tip how you can actually just create an individual line and use that line to split the faces of your design. We moved on to show you the process of quickly being able to create an aligned dimension. So when you're in the dimension command, if you just select a line that's on the angle, and you go back and you select it again, it's going to default to orienting that dimension in an aligned fashion for you very quickly, very easily. We also showed you how to turn on an additional fillet type in the plastic part category. And this fillet is a ruled fillet, which allows you to have a new process for how you can create fillet geometry as opposed to the standard fillet that you might be used to using. I think this is very powerful and something that you should explore the benefits of. The next thing we showed is a combination of slice graphics but also view options. So turning on slice graphics is a great way to be able to see down into your part when you're creating a sketch. The other thing though is oftentimes you may want to include geometry that would be removed with slice graphics, so turning on some of the different visual styles is a great way to have the best of both worlds. The other thing as we moved into the creation of drawings, if you have many components open in Inventor when you're creating a drawing, one thing that you can do is you can select the part that you want to create drawing views of, then go into the drawing, and it's going to default to that part even though you have many other parts open when you're creating your detailed drawing. The last thing that we showed is how to easily break alignment for your section view. So when you're in the process of creating the section view, you just hold down Control and then you can immediately break the alignment rather than creating the section view, right-clicking, going into alignment, breaking the alignment, and putting it in the new location. So as we start wrapping up this webinar, I first want to thank you for the time that you've spent with us today. I hope you found it valuable, and I hope you learned a few new tips and tricks inside of Inventor that's going to help you be just a little bit more productive in your day-to-day design tasks.